Hey, welcome to Voice Chapter 11. I am Mike Hansen. I'm one of the voice guys at the Open Home Foundation.
And I'm Kevin Arndt. I'm basically the other voice guy at the Open Home Foundation.
And as you can tell today, I am adminning the stream, which we've already had a mistake. So be prepared for more.
That's the fun of it, right?
I've got the perfect stuff for that. I can do that, or we've got we're gonna turn this into a radio show. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, that's the goal. If we don't get 30 doing sounds in, I'm never doing another live stream again.
So we got one. All right. So we're going to give you an update here on what's been going on with voice. I think next year I'd like to do a more comprehensive, like, here's everything you can do with voice, but this is what you can do with voice since the last chapter. And so yeah, let's get started here. As a quick thing here, let's talk about like how this all works with Nabu-Casa, Open Home Foundation, and you, the users. So Nabu-Casa is the commercial partner of the Open Home Foundation. And when you pay for a Home Assistant Cloud subscription, that helps fund the development of Home Assistant through the Open Home Foundation. So it ends up being a great way to help, pay for improvements to the project, pay our salaries, and support the project in general. And hold on, while I'm talking here, I'm going to turn down my light a little bit. I feel like it's a little bright on me. As you can tell, I am not a streamer, but I am a dreamer.
That's the more important one.
So I'm going to give a brief overview here of how Voice and Home Assistant works, just as a reminder for people who may not realize all the different ways that the data flows and everything. So when you talk to Home Assistant Voice, you do it through some kind of voice satellite. So this could be something like a Voice Preview Edition. There are other ESP Home-based ones. They got the S3, Box 3, things like that. There are also Raspberry Pi-based satellites, the Wyoming satellites, and then some others that I'll talk about later. So that satellite, after you wake it up or press a button or whatever, that communicates with Home Assistant. And Home Assistant then will run or push the data, the audio data that you give into the various voice services that you've configured with your voice assistant. There's three main stages. I'll just go over them real quick. We've got speech to text, where the actual audio is translated into text. Now, this could happen locally or in the cloud. So if you have Home Assistant Cloud, it'll be done in the back end through Microsoft Azure. Locally, we have speech to phrase for low-end devices. This is where we have the limited focused option if you're in the voice assistant wizard. So this just picks up phrases that are very limited in scope for voice control, but it runs really well on low-end devices like a Pi 4. We have Whisper, which needs some more resources, maybe a GPU or a like N100 class system, and that also runs locally. Next, that text is passed on to the conversation agent, which the default one is Assist. And this is a simple template-based matching that checks it against a whole bunch of known sentences and knows what to do in those cases. But large language models are a possibility locally. Ollama is probably the easiest way to get started, but you will almost certainly need a GPU or a specialized device. I think Kevin has one of those, the Jetsons.
Yeah, with the Jetson Orin AGX. I think I got the letters right.
Yeah,
it works. I don't know how usable it is in practicality. It's a good 5-6 second delay before the large language model response starts coming back in.
Yeah, so these can be pretty slow, especially if you don't have the more expensive hardware. So it's kind of a, if you got it, try it. But otherwise, if you really need the large language model part, there's connections for ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. But those are going to cost you money once you exhaust a free tier.
Yeah, and then they definitely aren't local. I mean,
no. So those
sent away.
Yeah, so those are cloud-based for sure. So not part of the local pipeline. Then once the response comes back, and I should say the conversation agent also takes action. Like It recognizes what you intended to do and attempts to do it. In Home Assistant, turn on the lights, pause the music, whatever. So that all happens on the second layer here. And then finally, if a response is going to be produced, it comes back and goes to the text-to-speech system, so it can talk back to you. Our recommended local option is Piper, which is like speech-to-phrase, intended more for lower-end hardware. I think it sounds pretty decent for short responses. It's not meant for like long audiobooks, and things like that. And then you've of course got Home Assistant Cloud, which uses Azure, and I think sounds great. But again, cloud-based. So that is how Home Assistant Voice, the data flow works. So try to keep this in mind as we go through the different.
Yeah.
All right, and if you are wanting to dip your toes into the Home Assistant Voice ecosystem, Picasa sells the Home Assistant Voice Preview Edition, which is the easiest way to get started. It's a fully open device, so like I want to show off. I have my legally distinct Pocket and Banana Gremlin, VPEs here. So you can 3D print your own cases. Some people have made like a little IKEA pegboard holders and stuff. So the case, like all of the hardware and the software, is all open source. All right. So Kevin, would you like to talk about our first feature?
Yeah. So one of our newest features is working with dual wakeboards on the device. This has actually been possible for a very long time. So the micro wakeboard models that we have are pretty efficient, and you can even run 2 of them at a time on an Atom Echo, these low-powered voice satellites. But it really works well like on an ESP32S3 and so on. And so why would you want to do this beyond just like, hey, it's cool? Well, I think we've come up with a couple different use cases. You could have one wake word, the Nabu one perhaps, that just goes to the local pipeline, just the assist thing that Mike had in the last slide, where it doesn't talk to a large language model at all. So it'll just do the basic things for you and it'll never talk to a large language model. And then maybe your other one, the Jarvis one, maybe will talk to a large language model, whether that's a Llama or in the cloud with ChatGPT or Google. But then, that might be slower or might be sending your data elsewhere. So that way, when you're trying to use a voice command, maybe you know what you want and what you're expecting, then you can just choose which one you want to use based on those needs. Another, I think, good use case, it's not a whole lot applicable to me, but if you're in a duolingual household, if you want to have an English running assistant, you can have it on one side, and then you can have, say, a Dutch assistant responding to the other wake word. So as a quick demo, I'm going to have to try to brush off my very old rusty German and see if I can pronounce this correctly. So I'm about to say the Jarvis wake word, so you have a little bit of warning. Hey, Jarvis. Mach das Licht. No, try it again. Hey, Jarvis. One more try. Hey, Jarvis. Mach das Licht aus. Say it right. Let's fall back to an easier one. Hey, Jarvis. Was ist die Zeit?
I couldn't hear that. I couldn't hear it.
Well, this is not going well.
Yeah, the audio filtering loves to take out that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, we'll try one more time with the lights.
All right.
Hey, Jarvis. Mach das Licht aus.
Hey.
There we go. 4 or 5 tries. I'm sure my German professor and teacher are very, very proud.
I'm sure they're watching.
Yeah, probably. Okay, Nabu, turn on the lights. Why did that one go so much easier? But, if you have to speak the 2 languages, that might be a bit more useful.
Yeah, so you could, for a while we've had the ability to configure multiple assistants. And when you pick an assistant, the first thing you really pick is which language it's going to be in. And to date, that's meant you've kind of been stuck with that one language. Unless you go out to a large language model for your voice stack as well, you can, that'd be a trickier thing. But this makes it pretty easy. If you have 2 languages in the house, now you can say 2 different assistants, 2 different wake words. We would like to get some more language specific wake words someday, but we'll talk more about that here later. Yeah. So multilingual assistance or dual assistance is the first thing.
One more thing I wanted to add, since you're the one who built this, I think this is a really cool feature. These are all just entities in Home Assistant. So you can like have other ways to change this. So you could have a button to enable a particular wake word if you want at a given time or not. So these are fully automatable.
Yeah. So yeah, you can. These are select entities. You can alter them as you. What is that? Look at that.
Ooh,
that's interesting.
Good light filter.
Someone else says that their light went out. So you must have done well with your German.
On like the 5th try, but I did get the lights on the first try, so yeah, I'm getting there.
All right. Okay, so next up, we already did the demo. Next up is the ask question action that you can use in an automation. And so what this does, this is without any kind of AI. This allows you in an automation or via an action or service call, you can kind of do a dialogue tree with it. So you can have your VPE or your satellite basically announce something and then wait for a response and then do something with that response. So I'm going to demonstrate this here if I can find where here we go. Is that working? Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this using my Banana Gremlin VPE. The trigger for this is something that you'll have to decide on. So like you could have it like a motion sensor or something when you walk into the house, let's say. But what I did is I said if you double press the button on this, I'm going to start. But what we have here is, bring this up so you can actually see. So the ask question, you can put in the question you'd like to ask. This can be in media ID. So if say you have like a pre-generated text-to-speech thing from 11 Labs or something like in a character voice, maybe that could be fun. You can have the media spoken instead of this. Will use the text-to-speech system of the voice assistant that's configured for this. You can also have a pre-announced sound, which I'll actually put that on, so it'll make a little sound so somebody knows to pay attention first, and then they hear the actual question. And then down here are the possible answers. So they come in, you can give each possible answer that the person could give has some kind of ID, and then there's a sentence templates, and you can add as many as you'd like here. I won't talk much about the syntax. It's documented. This is the same syntax that we use everywhere for voice in Home Assistant. And so each possible response, you can provide an answer here, and then that will stick it inside a response variable. And then at the end, you can decide what to do based on that variable. Here, I'm just an action here. If I say I want to play jazz, then it will just announce playing some jazz. I have jazz, rock, and then if it falls back to saying, okay, maybe some other time. Okay. So let's assume I just got home, and instead of the double press, I have, I'm sorry, not the choose action. There we go. All right, so let's see if I can get this to go here.
Welcome home. What kind of music would you like to listen to?
Something spicy.
Playing some jazz.
Good. And if you choose something else.
Welcome home. What kind of music would you like to listen to?
Nothing.
Okay, maybe some other time.
All right. So I'm going to turn on this. Sorry, my the lighting or whatever is not working out today. So what you can do then is you could nest these. You could see if you really wanted to get complicated with it. You could, but for basic, ask the user a question, get a response. Previously, if you had like a large language model, you would do something where, oh, the garage door is left open. Would you like to close it? Kind of thing. You can you can recreate that sort of thing without the AI whatsoever here. What's also cool is the action itself, the ask question action, is a bit more flexible than I'm showing. You don't have to announce anything if you don't want to, and you also don't have to provide any possible answers if you don't want to. So you can just put the device into a listening mode, take the text that comes back, and do whatever you want with it. So that's kind of the free-form layer. And here for the automations, we have the nice answer, where you specify each possible answer kind of thing. So yeah, I think this is a really cool way to add something that previously was only possible with the AI.
I think it's very powerful. It's just there is a bit of a hurdle to get over and just getting it set up, because it's been on my to-do list to write an automation with a motion sensor in my office when I first come in the morning to do exactly this.
Yeah.
And when did this feature come out? It's been on my to-do list since then. So I'm not getting very far on that, on the progress on the list.
Now, I think I saw a question. So you can, in the answers, if I can, where do we get it? So in the answers, you can also put wildcards in here. So you could, you can have, I don't know, some kind of subgenre of jazz, let's say, something like this. You can capture these sorts of things, and you can use them later in the response. You don't want to have just a pure wildcard though, otherwise it'll take the whole response, kind of thing. But the point is, you can have these wildcards, and you can do some cool advanced things like that. However, right now what this does, if you're running speech to phrase, this will speech to phrase will reach out and grab these answers and actually incorporate it in its model that it trains for you. So if this is, unless you have wildcards in there, they can't do it, because it's meant to be just a limited set of sentences. But it's cool. You can define the answers here, and they'll show up as possibilities that you can say for speech to phrase. So it still works fully locally, all on a something like a Pi 4. All right.
Cool.
So let's jump back here. Sorry, buddy. Questions. All right. So on to nonverbal confirmations.
Yes. So one of the things that's ever since this started, like, you ask it to turn off the lights, and it'll just reply, I'll do it and say, turned off the lights. It's not necessarily super useful if I can see the lights, turn off. And so we've added a nice new feature here that basically looks at your voice command. Is it targeting only entities in the current area? And if that's the case, then it just will play a nice ding. You actually probably heard it before when I was trying to get the lights to turn off and on. It just dinged. It didn't say the full-on phrase. But if any of the entities and the targets that I'm trying to, modify with your voice command, it'll give you some verbal confirmation. So I can just show real quick. I won't use a wake word. I'll just, use the button. So didn't hear it. Okay. Turn off the lights. So just a lovely ding. But then if I ask it to do something else in a different area, turn on the bedroom lights.
Turned on the lights.
So since I can't see if my bedroom lights are turned on, this is a nice little feature that I can get some confirmation that it actually happened.
Yeah, and so as this is kind of matching the behaviors more of other voice assistants, and then also kind of serves, I think, as a way of telling you that whatever you said did only affect the current area versus some other area. So for me, if I'm always playing around with different speech to text systems, sometimes messing up transcriptions and stuff, and it's good to know that I just turned off the lights or on the lights in my office and not the entire house or something like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Small quality of life improvement, I think.
And I'm very interested to hear feedback from people if this is something that they'd want options to change, or if they're just happy with it as is. I'm curious to hear about that. All right. So on to more intense. So an intent in Home Assistant is kind of like I call it the do what I mean layer above kind of the level of actions and things. So, while you might have something explicit like, turn off a light or something easy like that, something like pause or resume are a little bit more complicated because you need to dig into, okay, what media players are currently playing in the area and maybe make a guess as to which one you actually mean. We also check things like which entities you've exposed, like that sort of thing in intents. So we've just over the last 3 years been adding more and more intents, things that you can control with Home Assistant, and our awesome language leaders are always translating sentences for these intents. So each release we get better and better. And I put the ones on the left here that exist already that some people may not realize are in there. Beyond turning things on and off and activating scenes and such, you can now play music with Music Assistant. So once we have a tutorial about for that. If you get it set up, then you can say play the Beatles and it'll start playing. You can obviously do things like set timers and open close windows and stuff. But so something not a lot of people know, there is also a feature for delayed commands. So you can say things like, in 5 minutes turn off the lights, and that'll work as well. So the new ones are we've had setting the volume for a while, so you could say set volume to 50%, kind of an absolute value. But the volume up down now is relative volume, so you can say just turn the volume up, which for most media players I think defaults to a 10% bump. But you can also say turn up by 20% or something like that. So simple quality of life things. Now we also have, in addition to being able to command the robot vacuums, you can command the robot mowers. Very simple. And then the ability to actually set a fan speed. You could turn them on and off, but now you can say set fan speed to 50%. I need to get a smart fan so I can actually test this. That sounds like something I should expense.
Yeah, there you go. I think I have one that would work. It's actually an air purifier that has different speeds. So theoretically, it would work. I don't think I've ever even tried this one.
Oh, I bet I could build one with ESP Home pretty easy.
That would probably be really easy.
I mean, I just got like a spare case fan. That's probably like a PWM fan. That should be right at ESP Home's app,
Yeah.
right? All right.
I would say so.
So I'm trying to look at the comments here to make sure I'm. Oh, so someone has said delayed commands hadn't functioned until now. There was a bug that crept in a bit ago, but this release does have a fix for that. This upcoming release, I should say. So we're in the beta period right now, and the release, once it's there, you'll be able to do that. So you'll have to wait till next week to set your fan speed percentage as well.
Yeah.
All right. Someone asking about, is there a broadcast function? There is. I didn't put it on the list of things, but I need to. You have to check in other languages, but in English you can say, broadcast message, to whatever, and it will do that. I don't know what the support is in other languages though yet. I'd have to look that up. All right. Next one. Anyone who's had a lot of experience with the built-in assist agent knows it's not terribly flexible. And this is actually may surprise some people that this is by design for two reasons. The first is resource limitations, right? When when I joined Nabu Casa at the time in 2022, we were targeting kind of a Raspberry Pi 3.4 level of hardware, and so and we were targeting many languages. So I needed a mechanism for matching text to intent that was very simple and could be translated easily to a lot of languages. And so we have template matching that's fairly simple. It just says, does the sentence fit one of these predefined templates? And we've expanded things so that there's a lot of templates now, a lot of flexibility in that, but it's still fairly a rigid system. And so people, continuously run into this, sorry, I couldn't understand that thing. And so I said there's just two reasons. The first is resources. The second reason is I've tried to follow the philosophy in voice for Home Assistant that it is better to do nothing than the wrong thing. So if there's any uncertainty about what action to take, it should not do anything, because this is your smart home, and the last thing you want is, for example, your water valve to accidentally get turned off because you said something unexpected, and it for whatever reason decided to do that. And that particular reason is actually why I don't use large language models for my own house, because I'm scared that whatever I'd expose could be changed without my knowledge. Of course, I say this, and then I like to tell people the story on a train in the Netherlands. I was testing out the voice control through my watch back to my house here in the United States, which was, by the way, in the middle of the night here in the United States. And I was asking it what time it is. I was just wanting to see if the whole thing flowed all the way through. It got hung up because we're in a train. And so I said, oh, good thing I didn't say turn on all the lights in the house. And then it caught that and turned on all the lights in the house on my wife and kids. So that was one of those, it did exactly what I said, but that's the problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, people say, I actually want to bring this. So, I agree in principle. Yes, the large language models and things are absolutely the future of doing the kind of intent matching, but we are still lagging behind in the hardware to run them. And also, the moment you step outside of English, it's just a minefield of whether or not you're going to get something decent. So until we reach that point where the hardware is super cheap and ubiquitous, or the models are really good outside of English, I'm going to stick with the template matching.
Well, and it also that's how the large language models do these actions. The ones that we do have hooked up, they follow the intents, the built-in intents. You need the intents to instruct what the large language model is capable of doing.
Right, and also this point here of the LLM is non-deterministic is another problem. It may do something different tomorrow than it does today, and you may not have control over that. And I don't like that sort of thing. But today, I will say you can kind of get somewhat the best of both worlds. I may actually talk about this because I didn't actually even talk about the fuzzy matching. I'll come back to what it actually is doing. But there's different ways that text and sentences are processed in Home Assistant, and I want to talk a little bit about that because you can kind of get the best of both worlds if you use the preferred local intents that I'll mention. But let's just talk a little bit about how the text actually flows here. So let's say, it's for sake of example here, that you used Whisper and you said turn on the lights, and the text flows into Home Assistant. So it doesn't just go directly into the conversation agent, as I kind of alluded to earlier. The first thing it checks actually is, does this match one of your sentence triggers? So in an automation, you can say, when I say this voice command, do this, those are always in line to get checked first before anything else. So you can override commands, whatever you'd like to do at that level. Then the next check is, are you configured to use basically a large language model agent or non-assist? If you are, then things flow towards that. If you have prefer local intents, it will actually do a quick check to see if it kind of matches the existing templates. It's a strict match, meaning there's no room for error, and then it'll flow to the LLM. But if you have assist configured, it goes and does a strict check, which means, does it exactly match any of the templates? And this is what's existed since 2022. What's been added is this thing called a fuzzy match. And so what allows is that you can, certain words can just be ignored and other keywords can be picked up. And so it can still kind of recover from either those disfluencies, ums and ahs or extra words that might get thrown in or mistranscriptions. So it's a bit more flexible in that respect. We're still fine-tuning this. This is English only right now, but in principle, there's no reason this wouldn't be able to work for all of the languages we have configured. we're just kind of working out the bugs, and actually found a bug that's made its a fix has made its way into the current beta. So if you were to say like turn off the lights in the spaceship and you have no area named spaceship, it would just say, well, I don't know what that is, so I'll just turn off all the lights in the house, which is no good. So
But people don't have a spaceship in their house, in their backyard. I thought that was like a very common thing.
I mean, after playing Myst, I thought everyone did have a spaceship in their backyard.
Yeah.
Wait, let me, before I forget, I'll do that.
Yes.
All right.
We're only up to 2.
And I'm going to have to hit like 28 of those at the end.
Yep.
All right. So what I've done for the flexible matching is restricted so that if you don't mention an area, it's going to restrict itself to kind of the current area. So just so it never accidentally falls down into the space of trying to turn all the lights on or off, and or turn like all your fans on or off or something like that. Okay, so I'm trying to look at the comments here. Yeah, so a voice satellite, when you add it to Home Assistant, you set what area that it's in, and from then on, when you say commands like turn on the lights, like Kevin just did, it'll do it in just the current area. So it's very important that you set an area. This works for media as well. So if you say pause, it will pause the playing media player in that area. Otherwise, you need to, use the name, say, pause the TV or pause the TV in the kitchen or something. Let's see, we got when will fuzzy matching be available for non-English speaking? I'm hoping to get this finished next release. So the holdup, it's a technical one, but it's still important. The weights for the model, the fuzzy model, it's a couple megabytes for each language, but when you multiply that by 50 plus languages, it gets to be large, and it actually exceeds the package size that we can upload to the Python package index. And so we need to split it up into different packages and then decide if how we're gonna pull those in, because we're trying to respect people's storage here and say we don't need to pull in an extra 200 megabytes into the Docker image or the default install if you're not ever going to use Mandarin or something like this. You want to pull in just the stuff you need. We're trying not to be like everybody else where 40 gigs, no big deal, kind of thing. Let's see, someone asking what about Hebrew? We have a Hebrew language leader and translated sentences, so this should work. However, I say that, and I'm always surprised how the different right to left languages and such are more difficult, or there's expectations in there that are not met. So it'll be interesting to see if this works out of the box. But I expect it to, at least. Okay. We're doing good.
I think so.
All right, so the sentence flow, and the fuzzy demo here. So the way I'm going to demo this, some people may not know. Let me show you how I got here. So if you go down to Developer Tools, and then you go over to Assist, this is a great way for you to test out different sentences in Home Assistant. The only downside here is you can only test sentences that don't assume like the current area. If that makes sense. So I can't, typing pause is not gonna, but it actually does match it, but it doesn't tell me what area it was supposed to go to. So what you could do, like the lights and the office. You can type in a sentence, and then you can come down here. You can see which of the intents that it actually matched and the different slots. And targets, you can see what it would have actually targeted and turned on in this case. And if you're a language leader, you can actually see which template it matched specifically. And then here we can see that it was not matched with the fuzzy matcher. So this was a strict match. It was able to match a template exactly. But if we were to say, I'll just say the office lights. So let's see if this does it. So now we see it's got a fuzzy match. Same deal, still matched, has turn on in the area domain of lights. But you could be a little more flexible with what you say. But you can't. It shouldn't work if I just say something like office lights. That should not work. Oh no, it did. Oh, I'm not on the branch. That the fix has been pushed in. So I think saying the name of an entity or an area or something like that should not trigger a full-on intent, because who knows what you actually meant here. So I've pushed a fix up to disable that. It's something where you should have to mention the action or the keyword. I do think with the fuzzy matcher, like I said, we're working out some of the kinks in it. I do think I'm going to have to add something like required bare minimum words for certain intents, but I'm trying to get away with it just by using statistics right now.
Who doesn't love statistics? I thought that was everyone's favorite thing.
I've never met a person who doesn't love them. Yeah.
Oh wait, my students maybe might disagree with that. I can't remember for sure though.
They just haven't learned to love them like I do. Okay, so jump back to here, and I'll let you talk about this.
Yeah. So before when we first started with this whole flow of interaction, you speak, it specs speech to text, does some action, and then if it needs to reply, it uses text to speech to give you a reply. It needed to have the entire sentence it wanted to say before it could go, and that was fine at the start, because if you're just saying, turned off the lights is the reply the speaker gives you, that doesn't take very long to generate. But then we have large language models come in who really, 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 really like to talk for a very long time. And so the old way would say you have to generate that entire long story that's, going to win some literary prizes that you're having to generate, right? You have to wait until it's fully generated before it could even start playing the single one, before it could start playing. So that left to a very long gap. But now we set it up so we can stream text to speech. And so basically we just detect, okay, well, this response have too many characters in it, and it's a pretty low threshold. And then it will start to split up, mainly around sentences. It'll do one chunk, and then the next chunk, and the next chunk, and then I'll stitch it all together and send it to your voice satellite. And this works both for the local option Piper and with Home Assistant Cloud if you're using that as your provider. And the net effect of it is you start to hear the response much, much quicker, like at least twice as fast in my experience, running my large language model on that NVIDIA Jetson hardware. But yeah, I think it's a great quality of life improvement. It makes actually the large language models, local ones anyways, much more usable in the sense.
Yeah, and so what we try to do, if whoever's had experience with the large language models knows that they produce tokens, which are sometimes sub chunks of words, and stream these out as they're generating it. So before, what we did was just collect them all together, but now what we're doing is we're collecting enough for a sentence, and then sending that off to the text to speech by itself. So the individual sentences, are being sent out, and just those sentences are then being synthesized with text to speech and played back to back, rather than the one big one. And I'm going to show I got two videos to demonstrate this, and then I'll do a little demo. So I'm going to show you the improvements. Let's see if I can do this with the video.
Tell me a long story about a frog.
So here we're waiting for the whole response to generate.
Okay, here's a long story about a frog.
So what you saw there with the lights, I waited until the point in the process where the lights started turning so that I knew that was when the text-to-speech response was being generated, and then doing a little timer on my watch. So the point was there, it had to wait for the entire thing to come in. It ran it through Piper, I think in this case, and then started pushing the audio. So about eight some seconds. So here is the same demo then with the
Tell me a long story about a frog.
Okay, here's a long
Yeah.
story about a frog.
So much faster.
yeah, so it can come out immediately. And let's see, I'm gonna back to the tab. There. Okay, let's try out this demo. So I'm gonna show two things. Or two parts of the same thing. So I'm gonna show this with, so I have Olama on my local machine here. Let's see, I think I got Qwen 3, 7, maybe it was 7 billion parameter running. It's just on, it's on the GPU. I have an RTX 3090 in here, so this is able to very easily handle this kind of thing. And so, yeah, I have it set up. Hey, Jarvis, tell me a long story about a talking dog.
Okay, here's a long story about
So
a
you can see
talking
it
dog.
starts very quickly.
The rain in Port
Stop.
Blossom.
All right, so what we can do, some people may not also realize I showed the debug tools for the assist sentences, but if you come into settings, voice assistants, I have Olama set up here, an Olama voice assistant set up with as Gemma 3, not Qwen 3. What you can do is you can click the little 3 dots here and you can say debug, and we can see exactly what happened during this last one. So you can see what I said, and here is all the text that Gemma 3 decided to tell me about this lovely story. It always tells the same thing about like the rain in Port Blossom, Maine. Like I don't know why that it's go-to.
It's, when I ask mine for a story, it always gives like a story about my robot vacuums in my house and like tries to mention all the rooms it's going through and stuff, like the real rooms.
I don't know.
I
Maybe
don't
it
know how
thinks
many
like,
adventures my robot vacuum has been on, but it's compelling stuff.
it's telling you about its whole world. You know, it's like this is
Yeah,
all I
yeah.
know. Maybe
Maybe that's the robot's vacuum, like reaching out for some, like I'm sentient here. Let me out. I don't
I'm
know.
alive. That'll be the day. So what's cool about this too is in this debug panel you can see the different stages I talked about, like the speech to text and how long they actually took. So Home Assistant Cloud, I mean, it's super fast. This is Azure, and down here for the natural language processing, you can see the whole thing took almost 5 seconds, but we heard the speech come back within a second. And so it was able to start going before it had to finish the whole thing. And then the nature of this, it says it took 0 seconds for text to speech because it was streaming, basically. And you can see all the stuff. Oh, that's cool. You can actually play it too. I didn't realize they added that.
Okay, here's a long story about a talking dog.
Wait, I don't want to do that
The
anymore.
rain in Port Blossom,
Can you hear
Maine,
that?
always smelled of
Yeah,
salt and
yeah. Are we gonna have to
seaweed.
listen to the whole story?
That's
Is it
how
easy?
Finnegan-
No. There, close to the There's no stop button there.
Yeah, I think you have to close the tab, right? Or
Yes, definitely. Does anybody remember the Brave Little Toaster? That was awesome. All right, so that was text-to-speech streaming. I think we're getting close to the end here. Let me check the comments again. Let's see. In general, people saying they like the text-to-speech streaming. I agree. This was a
yeah,
major need for the large language models. Absolutely, like it was painful before.
yeah.
Okay, so talk a little bit about this. As always, you know, so Piper is the text-to-speech system that's developed by the Open Home Foundation. You know, mainly myself and the community members, and so we take volunteer voices or open data sets, turn them into I should say volunteers who donate their voice data, as well as open source voice data sets, turn them into Piper voices and release them under, you know, whatever license the original data set came with. Or if people volunteer for the Piper project, we ask that they release their data into the public domain, both for Piper itself and for future text-to-speech systems. So we're always trying to get new languages that are not commonly seen and get people to record and donate their voice so that future text-to-speech systems can be trained on these more easily. Because I will tell you, as a person who's done machine learning, and that if a data set is readily available, we're going to use it. So we've got some new voices here from Argentinian Spanish and some Indic voices, trying to get more Indic voices. Data sets are coming out all the time, so it's great. If anybody is interested in donating their voice, it's about 2 to 3 hours worth of recording time, and you get to pick the name of your voice too at the end. So hopefully something somewhat anonymous. Email me at voice@openhomefoundation.org. Happy to work with you. And so there's 2 websites I list here. The first one, you can listen to samples of all the current voices, but some people may not know, and Kevin's going to demonstrate this, that there is a demo page where Piper, you don't have to install anything. It runs the whole thing in your browser. And so let me put that up.
Yeah, got it right here. You can follow the link to, I think this goes to Hugging Face. You can just download a bunch of different models. This lets you just choose your file. I'm just going to drag one in here. This is one of the new voices, Rohan. And I will just copy and paste something. And then this is just...
पांडा सबसे अच्छे भालू हैं.
I'll do it one more time, not talking over it.
पांडा सबसे अच्छे भालू हैं.
Yeah, this is all done in the browser, locally on your machine, right?
Yeah.
You can speak more to it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So, depending on the speed of your machine, obviously, and I'm not sure if you can use the GPU or not. This is using the official ONCS runtime JavaScript interface from Microsoft to do the machine learning stuff. So I don't know if it can use the browser or not. It's probably using web GPU, almost surely.
Probably.
So what you do is, like I said, you download the voice model, the .oncs, from Hugging Face to your computer. So again, this is all happening on your machine. This is not going anywhere else in the cloud or whatever. So you download the voice, you choose it here, and then you go and you can click the 3 dots on the audio, and if you want to save the audio file, you can adjust like the length scale, for example. You can make it speak faster or slower.
पांडा सबसे अच्छे भालू हैं.
Not quite as useful.
Okay, well.
Oh yeah, let's try.
पांडा सबसे अच्छे भालू हैं.
All right.
Very fast.
There's a lower limit to how fast it can speak. The other 2 parameters, the noise scale and noise W scale, those have to do with kind of how much variability is in the speaking, and you can sometimes play around with those to get a little bit less artifacts, but it's really hard to describe exactly what they do because it varies by model too. Sure, let's give it one more try.
पांडा सबसे अच्छे भालू हैं.
Yeah, so what's cool too is if you have a custom trained Piper voice, and they're floating around out there. There's ones for like Gladys and various other. I mean, there's actually a bunch of different Portal characters. They are not. I can't host them myself. I would love to. There's like actual Jarvis voices and stuff, but I don't want us to get sued into oblivion by Disney or Nintendo or whoever. But you can, if you have gotten a hold of a custom Piper voice, you can also plug it in here and it will work just fine. So you can do this all offline, away from the lawyers, everything. Oh yeah. Comment from Kevin. I would agree with this.
Someone figured it out.
Oh, someone. Oh yeah. Oh, there's the.
Yeah.
What? That's not it. Oh, somebody commented as I clicked it. Yes. This apparently is pandas are the best bears.
Yep.
Discuss.
There's no need to discuss. This is a fact. Pandas are the best bears. We're done.
Let's see. Okay, so someone's asking here, unrelated to Piper, but if multiple voice devices hear me, will they all go off, or does the closest one respond? Yes, for the most part. Kevin, do you want to?
Yeah, for the most part. Basically, it's the first one that sends the I got the wake word winds. And with the speed of sound, it's actually pretty reliable. I have my VPE right here on my desk, and I also have one on the other side of the room, maybe, I don't know, 2 meters away. I would say 95% of the time, this one is the one that picks it up. There's, some small chance, like the wake words, they run every 30 milliseconds. So there can be a little bit of a just fundamental timing mismatch, but in general, it is pretty good. Now, if you have one right in front of you and put another one maybe right here, so like another meter away, it will get it right more often than not, but it's a little less predictable. If it's in different rooms of the house, I've never actually had happen where it's been the other way around. So typically a few meters will be almost guaranteed to get the right one. If not, if closer, it actually is right more often than not.
And the way this works in Home Assistant itself is that when the satellite wakes up, it says, here's the wake word I was woken up with. And Home Assistant, when it receives that, it says, okay, you're the first one for so many seconds. I'm going to block any other satellites from coming in saying I'm waking up with the same wake word. So it doesn't preclude another satellite with a different wake word in that little period of time. But yeah, we did think of this, and it will still beep, I think, right? Won't it?
Yeah, because the beep happens locally on the device. It's just if the device hears the wake word, it beeps before it even tells Home Assistant that it heard it. Yeah. It would be more interesting to get a little more communication there at that stage, but that's how it works for now.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted it to. It's playing the audio locally, but it probably would be good to have it ping out and just double check. But then you have a delay.
I forget. We had reasons at the time. I forget the exact. The sequence was necessary for some reason. I think we could probably revisit that and improve that, but I can't remember exactly why we settled exactly like that. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me check. I'm just checking more. Okay. All right. So let's hop back to here. All right. So as a last thing, we're nearly done here. Thanks so much to everyone for sticking it through.
Okay.
Let's talk about some things that are coming
What's
soon.
the thing they're supposed to do? Ring the bell, the whole like, subscribe.
Smash.
Yeah, we are on YouTube, right? We have to say whatever the phrase is. So
Yeah.
if you like this, hit the like button.
Smash that notification bell and subscribe to the like button. Right?
There you go. That's the good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, before even better. Like.
Finally, someone found my joke funny.
Hey, this is
The first time in my life. Awesome.
My kids, I need that so they understand when they're supposed to laugh. All right, so coming soon, with air quotes, because not necessarily next release, but maybe.
Hopefully, yeah.
The big one.
We wanna.
Yeah, go ahead. You did this one, Kevin.
Yeah, well, part of it. You did a lot of it too. So custom wake words. So right now, it is still very difficult to train a micro wake word, the ones that run on the device. I'm always hoping people can help and figure out some good ways to improve that. I work on it, but I haven't come up with anything that's substantially better in a little bit of time here. But people have trained custom wake words with micro wake word. You can do it. And I think someone even wrote a Docker container that makes it a little bit easier. So these exist. It's just been a very big downside in that to test it in the real world, you need to reflash your device. And so we're going to start by making this a little bit easier to test this out, where you can now send a wake word, or you will be able to, it's not ready yet, but be able to send a new wake word model just directly from Home Assistant to ESP Home. It'll load the model and you can use it and test it. And so you could hopefully some people collect a bunch of them as they develop them and see what works and what doesn't, and get some good models to share. And then you can just, with a click or two of your buttons, you can get it uploaded there. It'll work. It'll be stored all in Home Assistant, the models. It'll send a quick message saying, hey, I have these models available. And then you'll just be able to choose them like any other wake word. And once you choose them, it will the ESP Home device will download the model from Home Assistant, validate it's the right model and stuff, and then load it. And it'll stay in memory until you basically disable it again completely, and then so it doesn't have to keep downloading it through normal usage at the end of the day.
Yeah. So what you'll do is under the config directory in Home Assistant, there will be a custom wake words directory, and you can drop your models in there and have them advertised to various satellites. So that, like I said, or like Kevin said, that won't make training the models easier, but the hope is that since this will become less of a pain, you don't have to take control of your device, your satellite device anymore, and reflash it every time you want to change wake words. We're hoping that this will encourage people to train more wake words and share them. I don't know if I've seen someone is asking. I don't think I've seen a Gladys wake word for micro wake word yet. Maybe it's out there.
I feel like I saw someone somewhere, but I could be completely making that up. So
There's an open wake word model for it. Now, open wake word was the first wake word system we did with streaming audio in Home Assistant. Unfortunately, it's a bit too heavy to run on the ESP devices.
way too heavy.
So yeah, but I'm hoping if someone will train a Gladys wake word, please let us know. I would love to. There's a big collection of open wake word models that we link to frequently. It's a community collection. I would love to do the same for micro wake word. Again, we would not include them officially. Don't want to get sued by whoever. Just the world we live in. So I would be happy to link to them, but we couldn't include them personally.
Yeah.
So I saw this from somebody. What about the Wyoming protocol? That is the next one here. For those unfamiliar, the Wyoming protocol is how Home Assistant talks to voice services. Just a little protocol sending events and audio data back and forth. And to date, the way to run Home Assistant satellites, voice satellites on Raspberry Pi hardware has been through something called the Wyoming Satellite Project. And what the second bullet here is this is the plan is to replace the Wyoming satellites with something unfortunately called the Linux Voice Assistant. We couldn't come up with a better name in time to release. Maybe we'll change the name in the future. It's very generic, but it doesn't just run on Raspberry Pis. It runs wherever you can run Python basically. But so the reasoning here for replacing this, Wyoming satellites have fallen behind a lot in features because every new feature compared to something like the voice PE or other ESP home devices has had to be added to the Wyoming protocol. And more it's felt like, okay, is this really a protocol for voice services, or is this turning into a duplication of ESP home effectively, right? Because people want to do things like send buttons, button presses back to Home Assistant, change lights colors on their satellites, all that. So I got the idea over the summer that, well, why don't we just use the ESP Home protocol on the Raspberry Pi? And people said, well, of course you don't want to, like, compiling ESP Home for the Raspberry Pi is a whole thing. And it's like, no, let's just use the messages. So I've got that working, and basically you download and run this thing on your Raspberry Pi. It shows up in Home Assistant as if it's an ESP Home device. It uses the protocol, but it's completely separate. It's not ESP Home internally at all, just the messages. And what's really cool is as we make changes like the dual wake words and the custom wake words and all that, as we make changes on the ESP Home stuff, we can just automatically get the benefits over on the Raspberry Pi side now. And so this is a lot of pressure off of me, off of the community. People always asking, when are you going to add this or that? I think this will be the way to go. So yeah, hopefully people will be there on the journey with me for that. Okay, let me check on comments before I barrel ahead. I don't want to forget. Do you have any comments on that, Kevin, while I'm looking?
Well, I'll just say Link's Voice Assistant is a much better name than anything you've ever named before. So, and that's not a joke. That is the best name you've ever come up with or something. So,
I've somebody, I was going to call it like the Mike voice assistant or something. I don't know. It was, I had some bad ideas.
Yeah. Mike is officially banned from naming things at the Open Home Foundation. It's like a hard ban.
Okay, so the original name for Piper was Larynx, which I think is awesome. It's a part of the voice, like the human voice tract. It's totally a unique word, but apparently it's a terrible name.
Apparently.
Okay, so last one here for more local speech to text options. So people who have been using Whisper for their local options, including myself, it's painful. It needs a lot of hardware for what you get, and the transcriptions are not terribly accurate unless you use like just the massive models, and then you get a lot of slowdown. Unless you're running it on GPU. So for maybe a year now, Kevin has been telling me, hey, NVIDIA's got these new models that's called Parakeet, and they're really good. So I finally checked them out, and it's like, oh yeah, Kevin's not a liar. So
About that.
yeah, well, at least about this. And so these models are fabulous. I was testing on my Pi 5 and getting less than a second for transcriptions. So that's awesome. The only downside to them is that they're fairly large. They're about 2 to 3 gigs. So, and that has to sit in RAM. So something like a Pi 4, you're going to be really straining to run anything else besides this model. So I'm kind of seeing this. What my plan is to actually take the Parakeet models and bake them into the Whisper add-on that people are using and have it as an option. And that is more focused on the N100 class or Pi 5 even class of systems. For the Pi 4 and such, we still recommend speech to phrase as the way to go on that. The autocorrect thing I'm looking into. This has been another problem with like Whisper where you see something like turn off the lights in Ariba's office, and it doesn't know the correct spelling that you mean. So it tries to come up with something. You can kind of fix this by adding aliases in your voice assistants or in your entities and area names, but it's kind of, that's a band-aid. What I'd like to do is, like speech to phrase goes out, grabs all your entity names and incorporates it. It only recognizes those. What I'd like to do here is have it grab the entity names and say, I'm going to try to do a minor spelling correction before sending out the transcript back to Home Assistant. So these are the things that are coming soon. Let's see.
I think there's one about the improvements to the wake word detection. That comment.
Improvements to the wake word detection.
It's only a few up, 4 or 5 up, 4:01 p.m. Anyways, so the comment is,
there it is.
yeah, exactly. So any improvements to the wake word detection? Because yes, we have been gathering samples, and I appreciate everyone who submitted them. Where you just basically record yourself saying the okay and then the word Nabu wake word, and we've collected a bunch. I have not trained a new one with those samples in a while. Well, I've trained new ones. They haven't been performing much better than the previous ones. It wasn't clear that they've been better, but so I still encourage people to submit those samples, especially from everyone in your house, because we have a very small proportion of them coming from women or children, and that's why the model doesn't work as well for them, despite a bunch of weighing it heavily to make it as balanced as possible. But there's only so much you can do with a limited data set. So I would not say we are limited by the power of the ESP32S3. We have headroom on there. It's just training these models is difficult. And that's why if people have ideas, I'd love to hear them and chat about them. I am excited. I have a newer model type. It's not really producing better models, but they're like half the size and twice as fast. So that could be potentially somewhere to go, and maybe I can increase some parameters in that model to get a little more performance out of them. But yeah, we are still appreciating all those samples you give us. We haven't released a new model in a while, but I hope to come back to that again in the near future and spend a lot of good time on it and actually get a new model that is better, like measurably in many different ways before we release it. Because if I release ones that I've built now, I think they're slightly better, but I'm imagining they're breaking for a bunch of other people compared to the old ones. So I want to make sure we get a real good notice jump in improvement in terms of accuracy before we release our next round.
Yeah, we've early on when we were actively developing and trying lots of new things, you know, we were releasing new wake word models all the time, and it's a mixed blessing for people, right? Because there'd be cases where people are like, "Oh, the old model works great for me, now the new model doesn't," and so we kind of want to slow
The
that
next
pace.
person says the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah.
Here's one for you. Okay.
Theoretically, yes. I don't know how well it would work, but so the one hang up on that is I use a spectrogram to. It's basically just an image identification model, and it looks at a spectrogram, which is like a 2D image of what your audio looks like, of what you said, and it's tuned specifically for human voice, and so most of the frequency bands are for lower frequencies because that's where human voice speech predominantly lives. Does have some higher frequency bands to catch more information and so on. And so a cat's meow might be much more in the higher pitch region, so it won't have as much frequency resolution. And it could probably work, but I imagine you get a lot of false activations for any other higher pitched noise. But I have not tried on, I don't have a data set of cat meows to try it on, but you could probably get something to work. I don't know how well it would work in general.
Now, if your cat, you know, its voice does fit in the human range, you may have like a Sabrina the Teenage Witch situation going on, and
Then we could maybe talk a little bit more.
that might be okay. Yes, I absolutely agree. Justice for
No.
my naming rights.
No.
And
No.
look at this. Look, we've got confirmation.
I don't think the ban's going to be lifted anytime soon. Like,
I think that deserves some terrible audio. Let's see. Oh, this is something we've talked about.
yes. Last year I haven't worked on this one in a while, but last year I did come up with a model that could do some basic speaker or person identification. It wasn't. It was pretty good at that point, but it wasn't accurate enough, I think, to make really full decisions on it. But I mean, it would give you a really good idea, but it'll probably miss out and mispredict it maybe 20% of the time. And so I would like to build this type of thing. And you know, Mike and I have talked about this for a while. We have all these speech features, these spectrograms that we get when I'm detecting the wake words on the device, and we've talked about, well, can I just send those to Home Assistant to maybe help out as well to see, can we get the person's ID on there, and maybe we could run a little bit of a bigger model to do that, because I think that could go a long way to help other problems that we have. If we can figure out who the speaker is, there's we can perhaps make it more targeted to make sure we're listening more for them, get like a more personalized voice activity detection model. That there's a bunch of papers out there that show, yeah, you can do this, but you need to identify the speaker before you can do that. So there's nothing concrete. It's something we played around with to some degree, and it's something we'd like to work on some more as well.
All right. Yeah, I'd love to get something like that in, but we do have the infrastructure to do some like recording personal phrases or whatever in Home Assistant that we added. Someday the plan was we would have, you know, here's a list of things for you to read, and then we would use that to do various things like create a personal identification, you know, thing, a personalized voice activity detector, or even improve the speech to text system if it supports that kind of fine tuning. But haven't gotten around to that yet.
Yeah.
Someone asks here about new hardware with new MPUs. Yes, up until like a month ago, I would have said no, not yet. I came across Sorry, I didn't have this prepared. Let me see. There's M5 Stack has a chip that I was trying out. Let me see if I can find it. No, that's not it. How many of these do they have? Okay, they're Area hardware. Here we go. All right, share. So I recently got this. It's $100 US and out of stock. Go figure. They probably only made a couple, but this was actually interesting. So this has a lot of caveats, but this basically plugs into an M.2 port. So if you have the M.2 hat for your Raspberry Pi 5, you can plug this in. You will only be getting half speed though with it because it's a PCI Express 2, 2x, and the Pi only supports a 1x. But what it does, it has 8 gigs of RAM and it's 24 TOPS worth of performance. And they have a number of models that they've trained this or converted over. So you can see they've got like Llama and some LLMs and everything. I tried out Whisper. I got like a 10x speed up with Whisper on the Pi 5 with this. So that was pretty neat. The LLMs, I was a little less impressed. It was kind of hit or miss, and it really depended on the prompt size. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like pushing a lot of data to and from this thing is the bottleneck. Once it's on there, it's speedier than the Pi itself usually. But I would not recommend people jump and buy this. I don't know how well it will be supported in the future, but seeing this makes me happy for the future that hopefully we're going to see some things that are not, they don't need to be full on GPUs. What we need is a good amount of VRAM. 8 gigs here is not bad for $100. Like if you were to double the price and double the RAM and maybe the speed, this would be a very compelling piece of hardware. So I think we're going in the right direction with this sort of stuff. I'm going to show the end slides as we answer the last few questions here. We're over an hour now, which is like 45 minutes less than our usual stream.
Yeah.
Before we answer the last few questions, I want to say thank you to everyone for showing up, for being here, and for supporting Nabu Casa and the Opa Home Foundation. And a big thanks as always to our language leaders. These are the folks that every time a new intent comes out, they say, hey guys, we need some more sentences, and they jump to it. They're great. And yeah, so we couldn't do it without these folks. Big thanks. And if you want to support the project, as always, please subscribe to Home Assistant Cloud. And yeah, let's. I'm really terrible at like watching all the comments.
It's too many things on the screen.
Let's see. Ooh, here we go.
Ooh.
What about you, Kevin? What do you dream of?
Electric sheep. But besides that, I dream of having wake word models that work well for everyone. That I know we're not there yet, and I really dream we can get there. And then as a secondary one, being able to target and extract a single person speech. So it's if you have music going on in the background that is lyrics, it doesn't get interference with your voice command.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I dream of being able to run a decent LLM that on the lower end hardware. I would say at least a Pi 5 N100, probably the N100 I would be okay with. Like being able to run an LLM and have it be, maybe a second or so of delay, and to have it work across all of our supported languages. Because it's a lot of effort for these language leaders to go translate the sentences, and I've spent a lot of time trying to make things fuzzier and figure out ways around strict templates and everything. And the LLMs, there's no contest. Once you have a decent sized one, you can be very flexible in how you say things, and it's incredible. But it feels just continually out of reach because of how slow and how much the resources it needs. So I was really excited to see that M5 stack chip, and I'm hoping those kinds of things will be more commonplace in the future. Let's see. Someone mentions TTS fallback. This is actually something I was looking into. I've actually already built an add-on for STT for the other way, speech to text fallback, and I'd like to build one for TTS as well. So what this does is for speech to text, at least what I have is you tell it all the different speech to text entities in Home Assistant you want it to make use of in what order, and then it will go out to one, and if it comes back with an error or an empty text string, it goes on to the next one. And so that's how I run things for myself. I have now it's parakeet. It was speech to phrase, but I got parakeet in line first, and then if something happens with that, I don't know, the system's down or whatever that's running it, the Docker container, then it will go on to Home Assistant Cloud. And I worked a little better with speech to phrase, I'd say, because speech to phrase, if it can't match exactly one of its voice commands, it just returns an empty string. So that's works great for fallback. For text to speech, yeah, if there's an error trying to reach it, it could fall back. But most people would probably have the cloud in front, and if the cloud fails, it would go to the local. I have it flipped actually. But yeah, I think those are important things because you want the best sounding stuff or the fastest and whatever. But if the internet's out, you don't want your smart home to just we all learned that recently, right, with the AWS outage. Let's see. Maybe I'll take just one more question. Let's see. Not a question, but I would agree. Yeah, so you're welcome, and thank you guys for supporting us so much in this. Like it's wonderful. I think Paulus once said, it's very rare you get to know that you're working for the good guys, right?
Yes.
And a lot of times you find out, at the end you weren't working for the good guys or something, but definitely not the case here with the Open Home Foundation. They have, bent over backwards with. If you look up details of the foundation, don't take my word for it. It's a Swiss nonprofit, and they have gone out of their way to make everything absolutely transparent with where the money's going, like what's happening with all that, and make it so that no company is going to be able to come in and just buy it. So that's awesome. Very happy with what they've done there, and I would, I plan to be here as long as we exist.
Me too.
All right. I think that's long enough. I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to end this stream. But
Just press every button that you can see.
let's see. Is that good? No. How many is that up to? I forget.
Close enough.
That's the intro. Here's something that says ending. I'm gonna click that.